Thank you for joining us for another insightful episode of Creatives Chat. Episode 48, After Show Convo, featuring Chris James. Join us as we chat about who knows what. Our show shall begin now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by wearehistorically.com, Conscious Brand Apparel, and
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
hello and welcome to our after show convo. We're going to pick up where we left off with Peter and Chris James.
One of the things that I've been incorporating these past few fasts is like I don't take a break from like lifting and exercise. I may not be doing like sprints and all this other crazy like cardio, but like I'm lifting weights. I'm actually using muscles and I'm not having atrophy. I still have all the energy. My fat burning is more efficient. I have noticed that, but it's one of those things where I'll get to a point where it's like I'll lose maybe like a pound of fat a day, like maybe 2, and that's with lifting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Completely counterintuitive in terms of what we're so accustomed to.
Yes. I actually, so my brother and I, we noticed this very early on because with him losing all that weight, he wanted to get in shape. He wanted to have a 6-pack. That was his goal. So, he started going to the gym. We both did. And we had very interesting experiences where, number one, we realized that in order to build muscle, we didn't actually need these large amounts of protein like they were teaching us. The human growth hormone is crazy. Like, what is it at 48 hours or something like that? It maxes out and it's like 2,000% production of human growth hormone versus, I guess, when you're just eating and, normal or whatever. So leveraging that with the fasting, we were seeing crazy strength gains. I mean, it was crazy. And I'm sure you can attest to it, like how quickly we were getting stronger and also just like maintaining it. So there was a period of time where he went to California to get his fitness certification. And he was fasting. He was doing like a 5-2 schedule throughout this whole time. And of course, his teacher is teaching like the calories in, calories out, just all the old school nonsense. And my brother's like, yeah, that's not actually how the body works. My brother's a really matter of fact kind of guy. And his gains and everything that he was doing in the class was far superior to everyone else. And I remember he told a story. He was at the gym and he was curling 50s. Now, my brother is at the time, well, he's about 6'1". And at the time, he was probably about 185 pounds. And he's curling 50s. Yeah. And these big bodybuilder guys are like, bro, how are you doing that? Those things are freaking heavy, because he doesn't look the part. He doesn't. When you think about 180-pound guy who like works out, he's kind of like a bigger guy. But my brother he's more streamlined. Yeah. And what he noticed was you couldn't see his gains unless he was tensing his muscles. So when he would go from like a 13.5-inch bicep to like a 15.75-inch bicep when he would just tense it, but you couldn't see his gains unless he was tensing. So he's building a different type of muscle that was more streamlined. It was more supple, more flexible. It didn't have all the inflammation, Yeah. And so he didn't look as big or look as strong as he was. And we just blew that whole protein, calories in, calories out thing out because, man, he was fasting 5 days out of the week and going to the gym. And really what it boils down is to acclimate. You want to get your body acclimated, So where you're at now, and this is where the yogi is at, he's been for years. When you fast on a regular basis and your body becomes acclimated, and keep in mind, as you're changing your eating habits and your drinking habits, your body doesn't recontaminate to the level it was before.
Exactly.
Once you get past all of that major decontamination, now it's all upside, right? Like I use fasting when I wrote my book. There would be times when I wasn't motivated, or maybe just, if I really wanted to like get a lot of work done, I would fast, and it would help me. It would help keep the creative juices flowing, or if I just was energetically tired, it would just help give me that reset. And I was able to. I remember one day in particular, I was doing a juice fast, and I wrote I think it was like 17,000 words that day. It was insane. I never wrote that many words in a day. It was just, I mean, I'm not a writer. I don't know if that's impressive or not. It was impressive for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just this amazing tool you could use. And if you just get past, because people think, oh, it's always going to be rough. No, it gets easier as you get better. It's just like building muscle, right?
Yeah.
Lifting a 50-pound weight is hard at first. And then after you've done it for, 6 months or whatever it is, it's like, it's nothing. So, yeah.
Well, it's really entertaining just to hear all the different stories and your guys' experience, because again, everyone who's on that same path of the fasting and experimenting like this, that's what you really experience. It's not just like a one person thing. Oh, this is just unique to you. It's like, no, this is like a consistent theme that is repeated over and over and over. I don't know anything more scientific than that. You have a ton of different independent resources and individuals all over the globe practicing this method, and they're seeing the same thing. Like, I noticed that my recovery has increased, and that's one of those gains that's kept with me since the fasting. And like, I noticed it first when I went to be like vegetarian, and I noticed that like years ago, because it's been almost 10 years but since I've been vegetarian. And like, I noticed that first. I was like, oh wow, my inflammation's down, my recoveries are quicker. And then once I started consistently incorporating fasting, I was like, oh wow, my recovery's even faster now. What's going on? So I always try to experiment between each fast, like to find like the perfect ideal diet for me, for my body. I'm like, okay, what works, what doesn't? Well, this doesn't work. And then, narrowed it down to the point now where it's like, when you really have that relation with yourself, it's that self-knowledge. And I love how you always push it. Knowledge is power, because it's facts. And when you have this experiential knowledge of your own vehicle, your own flesh, your own spirit, your own energy, that's the magic right there. Because I kind of jokingly say, I'm like, fasting is probably the closest thing to magic that a regular person can tap into at any moment in time. And, it really just shines through with everything that you've been talking about thus far, yo. It's crazy.
Actually, you reminded me. So I did a 3-month fitness journey experiment, and I experienced something very interesting. Two things that are very interesting. Number one, I'm that guy. I'm not a gym rat. Never really been interested in going to the gym and fitness. It's just never been my thing. So I often will go to the gym for like a period of time. Let's call it 4 months, and then I'll fall off for a year. That's just my normal thing, right? So anytime I get back into the gym, the first week is brutal. I'm sure most people know what I'm talking about. You're very sore, especially if you work out hard. Like it's rough. You can barely get out of bed the next day. And I did not experience that this last experiment I had, where as far as like the recovery, it was like I could work out as hard as I wanted. And there wasn't no 3 days of having to recover from doing leg day. I could hit legs again the next day. And so that allows you to, I mean, for those who are like, if you're listening to this and you're really into weight, training or fitness, the fact that you're not using fasting is mind-boggling to me, because a lot of athletes, like elite level athletes, use fasting. Maybe they don't talk about it, or they might talk about it in a different way. You don't call it fasting, but they really do use it. The other thing that I noticed that was huge for me, because of my ups and downs at the gym, my strength retention. So I have like this set of 20-pound dumbbells that I just, when I don't feel like going to the gym, I use my dumbbells, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. What would happen all the time is I do my 4 months of whatever, and then I'd stop using my dumbbells. I'd stop. I don't want to do this anymore. And then after maybe 2-3 months, I can't even curl with those dumbbells anymore. It's like I done lost all the progress I made. I mean, I might be able to hit it 1 or 2 times. This time, when I built my muscle using fasting, a year went by. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. A whole year went by. I didn't touch a weight, and I was still able to curl these dumbbells. And so I was just like, oh my God. Like,
that's wild.
I don't know. The body with the muscle, it's like when you build muscle based on like fasting and proper diet, you don't got to lose it all. You don't have to, it doesn't have to just go away after 3 or 4 weeks or a month, whatever.
And see, that's where I would just love to see more of an open acceptance of this in like kind of the Western scientific community, because then we really could just red pill a whole bunch of people by showing like scientifically quantifiable data that, oh wow, when muscle is built not on protein but built on your own natural. This is where I think we would get into like the union of spirit and science again, where it'd be like, oh, they're literally just operating on energy. Like their body becomes a factory to make everything you need for it. Yeah. And that's the stuff that's always really cool to look at it, because we are this little like chemistry factory, but our body never has the opportunity to actually awaken to its powers if we're always force feeding it and just eating and eating. So that's its own like rabbit hole. But I want to know a little bit more. So when did your book finish up with the Metamorphosis, A Journey to Holistic Wellness? How can our viewers and listeners get a hold of that?
So I've got that book available on my website, ahealthyalternative.org. It's available on Amazon, but you got to be careful because I have a black and white version and a full color version. But like I've got these extremely beautiful colorful pictures that kind of help to, just tell a story. It's all custom artwork that I had done. So it's on Amazon. It's also on my website, healthyalternative.org.
That's dope. That's an accomplishment right there, is just really giving people a playbook. And I do know that you host master classes. What's the composition of that? Do you join? Is it like Journey with You for our fasting experience?
Yeah. So my brother and I, we developed what we call the 40-day wellness class, and it's a holistic wellness class. The goal is to help people. You know how you get a little bit of gains or make a little bit of progress or whatever, and then life happens, the pandemic happens, your girlfriend breaks up with you, and you just lose all of the benefit that you just gained, and sometimes you regress further. We wanted to put together a program that's going to put an end to that. And it boils down to figuring out like what are the core issues that are driving you to make poor decisions. And it really there's a couple different elements to it, but it's like belief systems, like conditioning. What are the subconscious programs that are running in the background that are causing you to make these decisions? And so what we have to really understand is from the age of 0 to 7, we are being programmed. There's a lot of people who have studied the human mind and they understand that between the ages of 0 and 7, we're a sponge. We're absorbing everything. And then that programming becomes our subconscious programming that rules us 95% of the day. And of course, we don't know it because our conscious mind, we think that's going to make most of the decisions, but it's not. Who tells you to blink? Who tells you to breathe? You know what I'm saying? Like the mind is really running on autopilot. And so in that class, our goal is to dive into what are the autopilot programs that are running and causing you to, when you feel too stressed, eat, or when that person breaks up with you, eat, or, whatever your coping mechanism is. And so it's a very small class. We only work with a small handful of individuals at a time because it needs to be intimate and organic for people to really get the transformation they need. But there's a process. You can't just join because there's a pretty overwhelming desire to be in the class. And so we have it's like a questionnaire process where we'll do a call with you, and we're going to determine where you are mentally, physically, emotionally. are you ready to make the commitment to this process? Because the seats are limited, we want to make sure everybody involved is serious. And so you can find out more about that if you go to my Instagram, which is a.healthy.alternative. In the bio section, there's a link, and you'll see the 40-day wellness program listed there as an option. But yeah, it's 40 days, and you get over 22 hours of like classroom time. It's all live, and it's a pretty intense course.
That's what I like to hear, though, in terms of recognizing the seriousness of this type of change and transformation. That it's like, don't play. You actually have to want to make these changes in your life. You actually have to be willing enough to let go of those conditionings. And you hit the nail on the head, because it was almost like I was saying it myself with the conditionings. It's like people just don't understand, like, when we're kids, we're soaking up everything indiscriminately, whether it's good or bad. And unless you go through that conscious process of squeezing out the sponge, you're always going to be it's the same thing with detoxing the body. You're always going to be kind of filled with some otherness that's not really you. And when you identify with that, that's when we get into those issues. And that's what I find is always fascinating about water fasts, is because I really do see it as that process of, filling up a dirty sponge with clean water, squeezing it out, clean water, squeezing it out until it's a nice pure sponge again. And that's why I'm fascinated more about like the detox protocols that you've done. Like, I'm really curious, like, what was involved in that liver and gallbladder flush?
So the liver and gallbladder flush that I do is by a guy by the name of Andreas Moritz. So it's called the Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush. And it is a 6-day protocol. He has you eat a specific diet for the first 5 days, and it's kind of your prep phase. The diet is really simple. It's essentially, mostly raw fruits and vegetables. You could do some cooked food, but like meat is off the table. Dairy is off the table. You want to stay away from fat. So you don't want to, like, even if you're eating raw, like avocados, you want to stay away from fat, because essentially you're building up this reservoir of bile. And then because the body uses bile to like break down fat. And then the other key to it is malic acid. So you can get malic acid from, apple juice, tart cherry juice. They sell it as like a supplement in a powder form. But you're basically constantly giving yourself this malic acid throughout the prep phase. And what that does is it will soften the gallstones and the cholesterol stones, or bile stones is what I like to call them. It'll soften. So it's like the major preparation. Then you take it a step further, and you'll go get you'll do a colonic or water enema or something like that. You want to cleanse the pathway out, right? Your intestine, your colon, and then you do the actual flush. And the actual flush is olive oil, grapefruit juice.
Ooh. Oh.
I think it's olive oil and grapefruit juice, and then there's something you take before, once again, to help cleanse and flush the system. But the olive oil and grapefruit juice is really what does it. It triggers the liver to start pulsating, and what it'll do is start pumping all of that gunk and grime and sludge that's in the liver. It starts pumping it out, and as well as it will cause the gallbladder to spasm. And that's how you get the stones to kind of come out. And so it's a really intense protocol. You do it over the period of, 6 months, a year, pretty much kind of however long it takes. And then once you're done, there's like a maintenance protocol that he has, do it once every 3 months or 6 months or whatever to maintain. But yeah, it's pretty intense. And what I noticed from doing the flush is my digestion improved dramatically. And that's huge, because, part of the reason why we're so clogged up and backed up with crap is because we're not digesting food. We're not eliminating well. So gaining insane control over digestion is everything. As a matter of fact, I tell people, and this is, this isn't really realistic, But let's say that you had optimal like digestion and elimination. You could kind of eat whatever you wanted because
Right.
it wouldn't stay in the body long enough to have any real effect.
True.
But the problem is, and I don't know if people know this, when you eat something, you literally are supposed to eliminate it within like an hour.
Right.
Yeah, like it's not really supposed to stay in. You eat, you poop. It's in and out real quick. And how I started to really understand, because my aunt used to tell me this stuff decades ago. When I was like 12, she would tell me this stuff. And I'm like, impossible. Well, when you start fasting and you start eliminating, you clean that system out, man, I remember I ate avocado coming off of a fast, and probably within 30 minutes that avocado was coming out. And it wasn't just a little poop, like little poop. It was a massive bowel movement. It was massive. All of the avocado came out. And I said, oh my God, that's how much should come out from an avocado?
Imagine what else.
Right. You think about a pasta dish or, whatever you eat. And it's like, oh my God, now I understand how I've got 10 to 20 pounds of excess fecal. And it's probably closer to 40. These people who are massively overweight, it's probably closer to 40, to be honest. But the body and, talk about poop. But the other thing that you'll notice is when the system is working properly, literally your ish doesn't stink. It literally doesn't stink. It don't have time to stink. Right? Like, why do we use cow manure and animal manure and stuff? Right? Because it's traditionally speaking, they process food better than we do. But human feces should be the same. Yeah. But it sits and festers and just becomes toxic. But it should just go in and out. So the food would smell like what I was eating. It was crazy. Last thing I'll say about the feces.
No, dude, I love it.
I noticed that animals don't wipe, right? Unless they're sick. If they're sick or if they got worms or something, they'll wipe, right? They'll rub their butt on the grass. I also thought about our ancestors. I'm like, what did they do before we had paper, like toilet paper? Like I would have these conversations with myself as a child and even as a young adult. When you start eating properly and you're having proper elimination, you don't need toilet paper. Like that's facts. I didn't know that until it happened. And then one day I was listening to a guy talk about it. He's pretty popular. I don't remember his name though, but he's like, yeah, when you're having proper bowel movements, you don't need toilet paper. That's how you know you're having healthy bowels.
Yeah, just boop.
It's actually very interesting the way it comes out. It feels like diarrhea without like the stomach, the gut wrenching, but the way diarrhea just flows out. It flows out of you. It's not that compacted, soft serve ice cream crap that they try to teach you is the proper way to have a bowel movement. It's nothing like that. It's not compacted at all. And it flows out and it's just clean. It's like a valve. You just open and close. Bloop. And I remember I went to wipe myself and there was nothing there. And I said,
This is such crazy. A validating conversation on the bowel movements, because for me, I'm just always wondering, I'm like, okay, is this just me experiencing this like literal shit coming out like that?
No,
then it really is fascinating because people just they take for granted the efficiency of the human form. But I think it's one of those rules that I have now where I know a food, it's been one of the protocols in my experiments is like, I know a food doesn't work with me and I'm not supposed to be eating it if it takes more than 3 hours for the process, more than 2. That's like my limit. If it's like 4, if it's like the next day, I'm just like, I got to stop eating it.
And now that's science, right? You mentioned that earlier. That is actual science. We're not talking about theoretical science. I'm not a fan of theoretical science. Like I think it's garbage. I think it's something that we have. I think it was cool at first, and I think it could definitely be beneficial. But we've moved so far away from the actual life application and experimentation that it's like you have entire careers built off of theoretical science. Like you're not, bro. You're not doing anything in real life. It's all in your head. It's all numbers on a paper. Like, what actually works in real life? So this is a practical application. You don't need, like, people think that I'm just really well studied. They think that I read all these books on fasting. No, I really don't. I mean, I've done some backtracking, you know, but I'm actually talking from personal experiment. And then when the beauty is I get to see it with my brothers and the people from my audience, the community is doing it and they're reporting it back to me. And that's really how I built my knowledge base. I don't think I have one book that's exclusively about fasting, you know? So personal experimentation is the key. Anecdotal evidence. Like, we got to get away from thinking that the gold standard is peer-reviewed science in a published journal. Let's get away from all that nonsense and let's go back to anecdotal evidence, because that's real. That's what happens with real people in real life.
Yeah, 100%. And it even comes back to the point too, where it's, I think when people just worship the new church that is science, they overlook the fact of corruption. You know, I firsthand, you know, shout out to Jennifer Ross, because she's, you know, she does, I guess you would call her a biological physicist. And she had all these different theories about how different, like, microtubules and different things would move around in the body and, like, their locomotion. And for years, you know, people would be like, nope, not real. That's not a real thing. To the point where she, like, literally built her own telescope to show them, like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's real. But that's what was one of my first experiences in, like, the academic setting, where I learned, oh wow, this is super corrupt. These motherfuckers are, like, their entire career is built on this theory that they're coming up with, and they're just going to stonewall anyone that challenges that. And this is the stuff that I see where, when people really start to recognize that the science is behind food, the science is behind how we should eat, what we should be eating, follow the money. Most of them are sponsored by Pepsi, by Coke, by all these big food corporations. You know, I think, you know, for the listeners, one of the first things that people need to look into, and I think it was one of my health awakenings, was looking at the McGovern report in the 70s. We've known since the 70s artificial sugars have caused obesity and all these different health related issues. And who stonewalled it? The USDA, the big agricultural systems that, oh, we just made ethanol with corn, but let's use all the byproducts for stuff. Like, everything in our society is literally just like the leftover scraps just getting reused and recycled because it's efficient for the dollar. And it's, it breaks my heart, but it's like, it's really cool knowing that, like, you have this community that you've been building. I've been seeing it grow. I've been a part of it. It got me going on this stuff, you know, to this point now where it's like, you know, you have an app coming out.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, that's what I want.
Yeah. We, well, you're very tuned in, right? So, you know, the censorship is crazy right now. Yeah. You know, it has been for quite some time. They're just becoming super blatant. And what I found was, the more I talked about truth, the more my viewership diminished. Like, it's to the point now on YouTube where I don't get new views. Like, the only people that watch my videos now are subscribers. Wow. Like, it's 75% subscribers and like 25% new people, which is insane. My ratio used to be like reverse. It used to be like 70% new people, 30% subscribers, which is what drives your thing to grow, right? And how you have viral hits and stuff. And so the more I started talking about cancer, you know, I spoke out one time against wearing masks, like one time. Or just vaccines and just, you know, things like that. And they do not want you talking about that stuff. So I was just like, okay, my thing is this. I'm for whatever makes us healthier, like truly healthier. I'm not against science. I'm not against people say, oh, you're anti-vaxxer. No, I'm anti-poison. And when I look at the ingredients in a vaccine, it's poison. So I don't want to promote it or talk about it. If you change the ingredients to something that is going to be healthy and beneficial, we'll have that conversation. So in order to have these types of conversations, I'm like, I got to build my own platform. And so the goal is to orient it around social engagement, right? Like a Facebook or something like that. We want to build out very well thought out accountability groups, and we want to be able to disseminate information to the user, the end user, in a way that makes sense for them as an individual. So we've got a lot of ideas for how we're going to like further this thing in the future. But one of the features I'm really excited about is the body scan feature, which will essentially allow you to take a 3D rendering of your body, create something like a Bitmoji of yourself. And in real time, as you're losing weight and you're making these changes, you'll be able to see your composition changing.
That's dope.
Right? Because
dope.
one of the things that I noticed is people usually track their weight loss journey with the scale only. And I tell people, yo, you got to tape yourself because you're not getting the complete picture. But I figured this is like the best way to do it. You'll literally be able to see a 3D readout of your body. And so we've got fasting circles. So, you know, one of the issues people have is they want to fast. Like you said, you're the only one that really fasts in your circle. But imagine having a online community or family where y'all can fast together. Like, hey, we're going to fast from Monday to Thursday. And you've got this app that keeps you connected. Right. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be doing competitions. We did what we called the biggest winner competition, which is basically it was to motivate people to lose weight. And we had a monetary prize. And so, yeah, it's going to be phenomenal. And we really plan on we've already invested a lot into it. We're going to continue to build it out. And we really plan on making this like Facebook, Instagram, AHA wellness app. Like it's going to stand among the social media giants.
Yo, I can easily see it because just even like looking on Reddit, like our fasting, like there are already huge communities of people like really they're seeking this type of outlet. And I think that's one of the coolest things and why I was really excited to check, some of the stuff out because this is the future. I really do see it as people taking their health into their own hands, people being literate in terms of the true science of the human form. And it comes back to that point where, you talk about your brother reversing his diabetes. There's the True North Health Center. I think it's Dr. Michael Clapper. I think I got his name right, but it's like, they do like the 40-day water fast, like medical supervised water fast. And you have people that are getting rid of arthritis, cancer, you know what I mean? Like all these different types of physical ailments that they've had the entire lives for the most part. Like we don't even know the full potential of this yet until we get more people involved in it and start seeing globally, like, yeah, we're going to be changing. I mean, AHA is going to be changing the game as I see it.
Listen, I have read about some pretty phenomenal things. We're talking, there was a lady in Germany who she stopped eating at the age of like 10 or 12. And she could go out in cold weather without a coat. She could go with shorts and whatever. Cold didn't bother her. I'm sure you're familiar with Wim Hof, the Iceman. She could run without getting tired. I used to play Call of Duty. I used to go hard. And they have this perk on there. It's called Marathon. You can run unlimitedly. So I think about that. She was really, really strong. So you think about like the woman who, for whatever reason, her baby gets caught underneath the car, her husband's working, the car falls on the baby or whatever, and she's able to tap into that strength and pull the car off the baby. We all think about that, but it's like, what if we could control it? Like, what if we could actually manipulate it in real time? All right. So these people in these books that I've read about they're literally superhumans. They're able to tap into the superhuman strength that we all possess. And I feel like what's happening is this information is being purposely suppressed. One of the other things that I saw, because one thing, if you really listen to me, I talk about like my lifespan. I'm like, hey, I don't have any plans on dying at 85 like the average human being. My goal as of right now is 150 plus, because most people think you're capped at 120. But as I was doing my research, I'm seeing people in like remote areas that are living to be 200, 300, 400, even 500 years old, but they all get debunked. It's like, this guy claims to be 500, but he doesn't have any documentation. Well, he's 500 years old. What kind of birth certificate or documentation do you think he's going to have? But you have stories of villagers, right? Yeah. There was this one guy in particular, I think he claimed to be like 540 years old or something. And the only way that you could really verify it is through the stories of the villagers that lived kind of close to him. And there was this guy who was 80 years old telling a story about how when he was a little boy, he went up the mountain to see this man or whatever. His grandfather took him to go see this man. And so the family had this tradition of, I guess, going to visit this man for whatever reason. And so through his story, we could verify at least 3 generations of them traveling to see this man. I mean, that alone, you know what I'm saying? A grandfather taking his grandbaby to go see this man, that alone was able to verify like 320 years or something. So there's people who are living much longer right now. But of course, the Guinness Book of World Records isn't gonna, because they don't want you to know what you're capable of.
Bingo. That's it right there. When you are at that point of recognizing that we are capable of superhuman abilities, that I've seen that even just the spiritual angle of just like expanding yourself through meditation, through tapping in with nature, the different types of, psychokinetic abilities that people have, being able to mass hypnotize people. Like that's some of the things that I've read in some books too, is, and I actually have some people in my life who have firsthand experience of seeing, some person just in a meditation, but everyone else sees them as like climbing this beanstalk up into the sky. But you step outside of like a 30-foot circle and he's just meditating and everyone's just also sitting there kind of like in a meditative state. And it's just like, wait, what? So this is the stuff that I'm always fascinated with, is because there was, I think he was a famous Japanese guy who was served in the military, like early on in one of the early, I think, First World War. And he was one of those too, where it was like, he was supposed like 300 years old. Like no one really knew. There was like, he's just been looking the same age for like 50 years, that there's so much suppressed information out there on the true potential of the human experience. And oh man, that's its own show entirely in terms of just like dealing with the censorship and handling all that. But you're really tapping people into the full experience of what we can witness here as human beings. And that's the stuff that I'm excited to see how it develops, because there's more and more people interested in this. There's more and more people interested in the spiritual shifts. And I do know that I have one more question for you before the rest of you hop in. I'm just curious though, like, how has fasting and like this physical development influenced your spiritual development?
Well, like we mentioned earlier, right? Well, first, let me say this. I was born like I was born in a church. I was, baptized and all of that stuff. And so I had a very narrow view of spirituality growing up. And one of the reasons why I went down this health journey was to, I was seeking God. And I remember specifically saying a prayer that I wanted to seek God, whatever that was, not with any predetermined, notions or ideas. And so having that first experience with nature through fasting really opened me up to the fact that we're all connected on a level that most of us are numb to, right? Like all the humans, all the animals. You think about a tree is connected to the entire earth.
Right.
Like one tree is connected to the entire earth. And so tapping into just the abundance of the world and everything that is provided for us, like that was huge for me. My own personal spiritual journey has flourished. You learn these tools like the power of manifestation and the laws of attraction, and I feel like that's the spiritual realm. It's like energy. What are you putting out? It's very, very logical for me at this point. It's like what you put out is what you're going to attract. Yeah. And we got to be very careful about what we focus our energy on. Like I feel like spirituality it's very simplistic. If you really understand, you break it down, it's like you're going to attract what you put your energy towards, your focus. I mean, your energy is your spirit. Learning, one of the things that I started to really understand is we think that our spirit or our soul or whatever is in our body, or at least that's what they want us to believe. But our body is actually in our spirit, our consciousness, or our energetic field. Yeah. That's a very important distinction to make. And really understanding like chakra centers and like how energy flows. Man, I was doing an exercise the other day where it really just solidified for me, like, what is energy? What is, so when I think of spirituality, I really think of energy. I think of, our essence, our consciousness, kind of holistically speaking. Yeah. And I was just sitting in the chair, and it was a meditation practice. You close your eyes, you envision I think you mentioned a golden light, or whatever you kind of envision, a light coming in through your head, and the energy is flowing through your hands, and you just sit there and you just focus the energy into a ball or whatever, and you can literally feel it. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of this is part of my spiritual journey, because when I look at us holistically, I look at us as like these different dimensions or layers. And I never truly fully understood that or grasped that before, right? Thinking about God as this man in the clouds above and whatever, it was very different from how I think about it now, where it's this idea that we're all part of this source energy, like we're all part of, what you would consider God. Even the Bible talks about it, talks about how, God or Jesus lives in you, or
kingdom of heaven,
of heaven. It's all the same thing with different words. So it's been very eye-opening for me. I'm very open. One of the things that I didn't understand before, because I wasn't really encouraged to do it, like, you could be a Buddhist and a Christian. Like, people don't know that, like, you can believe both of those things. They really correlate. There's a lot of intersecting viewpoints and beliefs. Yeah. As a matter of fact, most belief systems are very similar at the core. They really are. Exactly. And so then you start to wonder, well, what's all the division about? But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at. Spirituality, energy, and things like that. It doesn't come easy for me. It's one of the things that's been more challenging for me to really tap into. So I really lean on my brothers and people who are a little bit more intuitive there, but I'm getting there, and I'm learning a lot more, and I'm applying that stuff in real life. Like, I'll end with this. Me and one of my partners, we decided that in the year 2021, we were going to have an insane goal, financial goal, because we like to test things. We really like to put things to the test. So we're testing the power of manifestation, the laws of attraction. We're really testing, like, what's the universe capable of? What is it really going to do for us? And we had a goal that we wanted to build, and we wanted to have in the bank $100 million by the end of the year. That was our goal. We were dead serious about it. Still are.
There you go.
At the time, no clue how it's going to happen. No clue. That's a lot of money. Well, maybe perspective. It depends on your perspective, right? Not a lot of money to Bill Gates. Maybe a lot of money to Pookie down the street. So at the beginning of January, I was introduced to an opportunity to join what I call an abundance mindset mastermind. Through this group, I was introduced to several opportunities that easily could net me $100 million. Like 2 or 3 opportunities that, like, each one of them potentially could be huge. And not to mention the app, developing of the app, and just all the other things I kind of have my hands in. And over the course of the past 4 or 5 months, I've started to see this picture where it's like, it's not just me saying it and just believing it. Like, it's forming, like, it's actually taking shape. It's really, really interesting. And I put it out there because I'm like, let's test this thing. Let's see. Because that's crazy. Like, 100 million, bro, I don't even have $1 million. So I don't, like, for me to say I'm gonna get 100, like, let's test it. Let's get uncomfortable. So we'll see.
I like that. Yo,
Yeah.
and this is where it comes back to, real recognizes real. It's that statement of when you start to push the paradigms and you literally experience them shatter through firsthand knowing, that's when you start to enter into this otherworldly being. And it comes back to that. It's an age-old saying I heard a long time ago, but it's like, I searched for God and found myself. I searched for myself and found God. And
Wow.
it's that different type of energetic connection, like I remember the first time, I've been practicing Qigong for pretty much just as about as long water fasting, about like the 3 years. And when I had the crown chakra open up, because I'm kind of like a skeptic when it comes to a lot of things first. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
let me question that thoroughly and see if this is real. And it was, I think it was day 4 of my water fast. I didn't really drink any water like the last 3 days, just naturally. I was just listening to my body, and I was out meditating, and it literally felt like a blowhole like opened up on like the top of my skull, and it was like I was underneath a waterfall, but it felt like I took a breath for the first time. Like I
Wow.
really took a breath. I could feel the energy flowing, kind of like the sugar and stuff coursing through the veins. Like I could literally feel the energy of the breath. And
Mm.
from that point on, it's just been a different learning experience and living experience. I think that's the cool thing that, fasting and everything really offers us, is it's a chance to really transform your life and live in a different, like live in a completely different realm. It's kind of like a video game, it's like you're living in the same open world as everyone else, but it's just like you see all the different quests, you see a whole different map than everybody else. And you're like, this is dope. Life is really a trip.
It's fun, man. Like last year was the most devastating year for so many people. And it was the most expansive, most amazing. I traveled. I had so much fun last year. I made the most money I ever made. Like it was just, we're in the same world, but we not. Like my perspective, I think the world's a beautiful place full of abundance and wonderful people. Somebody else is worried about what Trump is tweeting. Like we're not on the same frequency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that what it comes back down to as well is, when you, until you give yourself the opportunity to take a break from it all, you'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do hope that the listeners can really tap in to just understand that this is the power that fasting and all these different things provide. Because I was super skeptical about energy until I started feeling energy, like literally feeling energy.
Right.
I found that I was having these profound revelations of life every fast that would always kind of help me in my little quarterly experiments, bring a new point of focus on where my life would just continue to evolve and develop. And I'm so grateful, that I finally get to interview, because I was just like, yo, like this is a person that has some real life knowledge that the world needs to hear. So, Chris, again, I just want to thank you for coming on Creatives Chat, man. And listeners, thank you for tapping in. Any last words, man?
Listen, I tell people all the time that their time, their energy, their focus is precious. It's some of the most vital resources that you have. I appreciate you all, spending your time and energy and focus with me. You know, if you're interested in learning more and tapping in with the community, I'm everywhere. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, both A Healthy Alternative. Instagram is a.healthy.alternative. We've got the website, healthyalternative.org. Tap in, become a part of the community. We welcome everyone, all different points of views. We're just looking to learn and grow, and keep learning. The application of knowledge is power. That's it.
Oh, I love it. And with that, I'll say thank you, listeners, for tapping into another episode of Creatives Chat. Roll the outro.
That concludes this episode of Creatives Chat. Thank you for watching. Join us every Thursday at 3:33 p.m. Pacific Daily Time as creative minds get together and chat about who knows what. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again to our sponsors for making this show possible. Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Thank you for joining us.
Really, really locked in on water. Water is my bread and butter. You know, that's so.
So that leads me to my next question: the type of water.
Yeah, so you know, it's a big question. I usually, me personally, I use distilled water, and then I take it through a process. So I put it outside in a clear glass jar. I let the sun ionize and energize it. It also continues the process of breaking down any inorganic compounds in the water, also reformatting the water energetically speaking, because water will hold on to frequency. And then I kind of reaffirm that process with the gemstones to just keep the water healthy. And that's the water I drink.
Okay. Have you got time for one more question?
You're pushing it. Go ahead.
When you say gemstones, you mean crystals?
Yep. Crystals, gemstones. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Any specific ones that you use?
No, not
Quartz?
So there's different clusters. Quartz, rose quartz, garnet, tiger eye, whatever. You know,
Whatever you want to charge
the company I'm affiliated with, they put together little pods, different crystals for different purposes, vitality, wealth, fitness, etc. And those gems, I guess, because of their resonance frequency, they tend to, I guess, aid in different areas, but you can use whatever you want.
Yeah, man. Thank been real. Chris. Appreciate you for coming on the show, Chris. You know,
thank you.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see more with the app and everything growing, man. It's gonna be dope.
Yeah, definitely. Well, summer. It should be coming out this summer. So.
Okay. Have a happy always.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Peace. Yeah, that was a solid one.